Welcome back to CBS This Morning. The decision on when and if former President Trump will be allowed on Facebook is back in the hands of the person who least seemed to want it in the first place. That would be the company's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. He created an independent oversight board paid for by Facebook, which ruled yesterday that the company was right to suspend Mr. Trump for inciting the crowd that attacked the Capitol in January. But it also said Facebook was wrong to impose an indefinite suspension. And the board gave the company 6 months to permanently ban Mr. Trump or set a date to restore his account.
This was a fraudulent election.
4 months after former President Trump posted this video with false claims of election fraud and then sympathized on social media with supporters who stormed the Capitol that very day, Hella Thorning-Schmidt and other members of Facebook's Oversight Board said it was up to Facebook, not its self-created committee, to decide what to do with the former president's accounts.
We upheld a Facebook decision from the 7th of January where they took Mr. Trump off the platforms. And we said that was the right decision because Mr. Trump's content actually created harm, real life harm. So that was the right decision. But we also said to Facebook that they couldn't just invent an arbitrary penalty.
Instead, the board gave Facebook 6 months to pick a penalty for President Trump that is consistent with Facebook's rules for severe violations. Facebook, for its part, said it will now consider the board's decision and determine an action that is clear and proportionate. But in the meantime, the former president remains locked out of his Facebook and Instagram accounts and off all major social media platforms after a permanent ban by Twitter and an indefinite suspension by YouTube. So he responded on an old-fashioned website, saying free speech has been taken away from the President of the United States. Some of the former president's allies took to cable news.
It's wrong, and it's hurting America.
While others, of course, turned to social media, describing the ruling as disgraceful and pathetic. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy accused Facebook of acting like a Democrat super PAC.
Facebook is often accused, in particular by Republicans, of making partisan decisions, suppressing content that is conservative in nature. In reviewing this case, did you see evidence of that?
We didn't, but that is why the board is so adamant that the decisions that are taken are not taken in an arbitrary way. It has to be based on clarity, that rules apply equally for everyone, and of course, transparency.
It's all really new, this space.
Emily Bazelon is a writer for the New York Times Magazine and lecturer at Yale Law School.
Facebook is a private company. It is not the public square. The First Amendment, kind of traditional, very broad protections for free speech don't apply.
She says that while someone may need to regulate speech on Facebook, there's no agreement on whether that should be Silicon Valley or the government.
And so that's really the choice that's at stake here. It's about corporations making key decisions about the freedom of expression and preventing harm from spreading online versus people who we elect. The problem, of course, with handing this power over to the government is you always have to imagine any tool you create for controlling speech in the hands of the next person who you don't like who gets elected.
For now, Facebook's Oversight Board is also asking for some self-reflection, inviting the company to review its own potential role in the tensions that led to the Capitol riot.
What's to stop Facebook from reading the board's decision and doing nothing, putting it into a drawer, closing the drawer, and never looking at it again?
They can't do nothing because we have given them 6 months to react. And we want them to look at our recommendation and change their content policy so they become clearer. And we, of course, expect Facebook to honor their commitment to the Oversight Board.
I mean, the reality is that Facebook does have a choice here. It can take action or it cannot. It's up to them. Now, the board is supposed to be independent of Facebook, and it includes prominent lawyers, journalists, and former government officials like Thorning-Schmidt there, who is the former prime minister of Denmark. Facebook reportedly pays board members, guys, about six-figure salaries. I think what's so unsatisfying to just about everybody, I mean, no one seems happy with this, is the board is saying Facebook cannot invent a penalty, but then it said to Facebook, please invent some policies and make a decision. So either you're comfortable with a corporation making this decision, or you want a government to make this decision, but nobody seems to want nobody to make the decision. So it's like a rock, a hard place, and then another hard place.
No.
So next move, Mark Zuckerberg.
He's got to do something. For years, he's been saying, I don't want to be an arbiter of truth. I don't want to police political speech.
Which you understand at a
Which you
certain
understand,
level.
yeah. His reluctance is totally relatable, but it's going to come down to him. It's a big call.
No.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll wait